Imagine waking up to the kind of headline that makes the entire world stop scrolling. We're talking about a headline so serious that, before the facts are even confirmed, capitals are scrambling for emergency phones, global markets are shaking, and military command centers are instantly put on high alert. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're diving straight into the immediate, terrifying chain reaction of a world-altering geopolitical event, an Iranian nuclear test.
So, let's ask the massive question right off the bat. What if Iran tests a nuke tomorrow? What if one of the absolute most feared scenarios in modern geopolitics stops being just a distant possibility and suddenly becomes a live, real-world event? Not happening in secret, not a rumor, but happening tomorrow, right in plain view of satellites, intelligence agencies, and global governments. We're talking about a profound shock that the entire globe watches unfold in real time. It's an event that would trigger a massive chain reaction, and once it begins, the whole planet would literally feel different under the weight of that new reality.
This was the nightmare everyone feared, and now it is real. The psychology behind how the world would react to this is actually super fascinating. Because, the first reaction wouldn't really be surprise in the ordinary sense. It would be this profound, heavy shock landing right on top of years of built-up tension and endless global attempts to prevent exactly this moment. The world wouldn't be standing around saying, wait, how did this happen out of nowhere? Because a nuclear test, it's never just a technical event. It is a massive signal. It's a loud, undeniable message to the world that a major line has been crossed.
Let's break down those frantic first few minutes. You'd have sensors triggering alerts, satellites instantly tracking the zone, seismic networks measuring the blast, and analysts rushing to confirm the data. The global intelligence community would be absolutely consumed with getting absolute confirmation. Analysts would be scrambling to answer huge questions. Was it a subcritical event, an underground detonation at a known facility, or maybe a failed test? In geopolitics, you have to understand that certainty matters almost as much as the event itself. A suspected test is one thing, but a confirmed nuclear test is a whole different ballgame. And the crazy part is, the political reality is already moving way faster than the technical confirmation.
Now, internally within Iran, the response would be incredibly complex and full of contradictions. On one hand, you'd have some framing this strategic gamble as absolute proof of strength, national sovereignty, and technological progress. But on the flip side, there's the immediate, very real fear of the consequences. They know this could trigger crushing new sanctions, deep diplomatic isolation, and severe military pressure. The country's leadership would be walking a tightrope, having to somehow justify this massive, risky action not just to the international community, but to its own people.
Section 1, the diplomatic storm. Because that internal contradiction we just talked about, it would instantly spiral outward into intense political fallout.
The global political architecture would reorganize rapidly. The UN Security Council would undoubtedly enter emergency mode, likely invoking protocols for an immediate response. Major powers are calling urgent meetings. Global deterrence calculations shift literally instantly, and pretty much all existing negotiation positions are just completely abandoned. The entire international conversation throws out its previous baseline and immediately reorganizes around one terrifying question. Is this the dawn of a new strategic era, or the start of a catastrophe that nobody can stop?
The world must appear firm without making the situation worse. Think about what an impossible diplomatic balancing act that is. Every side needs to balance strong condemnation with at least the possibility of de-escalation. If the global reaction is too weak, well, that might just encourage future tests or even broader strategic risk-taking. But if the reaction is too aggressive, then you risk locking everyone into a dangerous spiral of retaliation. And that right there is the ultimate trap of nuclear politics. The international community has to deter without provoking. It's honestly one of the absolute hardest balancing acts in all of international affairs.
Section 2. Regional and market panic. Because diplomacy isn't the only thing moving at lightning speed here, the immediate ripple effect would be felt way beyond those political chambers.
Global markets would react to this news with predictably violent nervousness. Investors absolutely hate uncertainty. And nuclear uncertainty, that's just about the worst kind imaginable. Energy markets would become extremely volatile, shipping confidence would decline sharply, and regional insurance costs, especially for vessels moving through critical choke points, would skyrocket instantly. Currency and stock markets would likely plummet. Even if the test is just a single, isolated event, the sheer perception of instability causes real, severe economic damage right away. Fear travels far faster than actual policy.
And quietly in the background, the balance of power shifts in a way that can no longer be ignored. The reaction from neighboring states would be immediate and highly anxious. A nuclear test fundamentally changes the emotional temperature of the entire region. Even without making public statements, neighboring governments are going to secretly reassess their defense strategies. They're double-checking alliances, upgrading air defenses, reviewing civil protection systems. Just one single test causes the whole region to start acting differently because the regional balance of power has undeniably shifted.
Section 3. A new strategic reality. And that quiet shift brings us to the long term, structural changes in global security and human psychology. We have to talk about deterrence. It's the military reality where a nuclear test doesn't automatically mean war, but it forces everyone to plan as though the strategic environment has just become a lot more dangerous. It's fundamental to understanding the military implications here. It forces governments everywhere to shift their postures, heighten alert levels, and launch brand new contingency plans. The entire architecture of regional security is forced to adapt in real time, just to prevent the next stage from escalating into something even worse.
While militaries adapt, the public response fractures. The media cycle would be absolutely relentless. You'd have one side interpreting the test as undeniable proof that diplomacy failed, leading to loud demands for tougher sanctions and strict containment. But then, on the flip side, others would see it as the inevitable result of historical pressure, and they'd demand immediate negotiations to cool things down. But beneath all that noisy debate, the underlying shared feeling across the globe is incredibly simple and terrifying. The world just became a whole lot more dangerous overnight.
And this builds directly into some immense humanitarian and legal concerns. There's a huge psychological burden on ordinary families. It completely interrupts normal life, right? It's a stark reminder that these dangerous powers and fragile balances still exist. You'd see panic in cities near sensitive zones. Plus, treaty obligations would be questioned, and the whole global non-proliferation system would be deeply challenged. Diplomatic language becomes hyper-scrutinized because in a nuclear crisis, words matter so much. A careless phrase could harden a military position, while a vague phrase could spark immediate panic. The crucial takeaway from all of this is that in politics, interpretation becomes strategy. Once a nuclear test is confirmed, the conversation permanently shifts from "can it happen" to "what does it mean now that it actually did?" And here's the wild part. This sender completely loses control of the message. Allies, rivals, and neutral states will all react based on their own strategic interpretations. Some are going to read it as a direct provocation, others as a warning. Once that message is out there, controlling how it's interpreted is pretty much impossible. That's exactly why nuclear events are so dangerous. They are heavily symbolic at a planetary scale. Which leaves us with this final, honestly haunting question. If one nuclear test happens tomorrow, what happens next month? What does this mean for the future? This entire scenario we've walked through today isn't just about one country or one isolated technical event. It's really about the deep fragility of the systems that keep global catastrophe at bay. It forces us to recognize the stark difference between peace as some normal guaranteed condition and peace as a highly managed risk. Catastrophe isn't prevented by just hoping for the best, it's prevented by constant, careful work. Take a moment to really think about how quickly our entire world could change overnight. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.